Do it in the style of this particular individual. I'm not going to tell you who it is, but I am going to tell you that the individual that I'm going to be working off of does a lot of masking. Now, I am not I don't mask at all, so there'll be a difference in terms of our approach to do this. The individual is an American Watercolor Society member, does some beautiful work, and we're going to just make an attempt to do something similar. Why am I doing this? Well, every once in a while it's not a bad idea to take another artist's work and see what you can do to emulate their work, to simulate their work, to get a feeling of how they approach applying paint to paper. And I'm not suggesting at all that we copy this. That's not where I'm going with it. What I am suggesting is that we use their style or technique to develop or to help develop our own style or technique, because all artists have ways of approaching their art in different ways, and it's not a bad idea to learn technique. So that's what we're going to do. So in this case, what I'm going to first do is, because I tend to do this all the time, what I want to do is I want to lay down some basics. I just put a lot of scratches down here. They're just guides. Essentially, I'm just going to paint this based on what I'm looking at. But I do want to get a little bit of a wet feel to this whole paper. And in terms of doing so, what we're going to do is to wet the paper, because that's what I would do. I'm not necessarily saying that's what they'd do. Oh, you know what I forgot to do? Forgot to tape this down. Well, I hope I can do. Let's see. We can see this, right? Yeah. I can hope I can just do this without. Let me see if I can tape the bottom. I just need to be able to keep it in place. So I have no water down here, so I'm going to just tape it down in this area here. So that'll at least keep it in place. So we'll wet the whole thing. And why am I wetting the whole thing? Well, we're going to do a snow scene. And in terms of doing that snow scene, my approach, even though I'm looking at how they approach this, I'm looking at a lot of areas that are in their painting. They're masked, so you're getting some hard edges. But I'm going to, because I don't mask, I'm going to try to handle this thing in a wet technique. This is what I'm talking about by saying use their reference material, but not necessarily copy every way they do it, every way it's done. The other thing I want to do is I'm going to dry out certain areas. For example, let's assume that we wanted some drier area here, maybe some drier spots like this, maybe a dry spot in here, and we may want to put some dry spots in certain other areas as well. We're going to use, in this approach, we're going to actually use a lot of muted tones and a lot of bright tones, bright colors as well. And I know that's a little bit unusual. Usually I tend to paint muted tones a lot, but we'll give it a shot and see what happens. So I think what I'm going to do is lay down a light background of a cool blue. So I'm going to take a little bit of cobalt blue to give you an example how light This is a little bit of cobalt blue. A lot of water and a little bit of cobalt blue. Alright, and we're just going to come over here and just put some tone in the background. And I'm going to add a little bit of opera to that. Because I'm going to come down here with a little bit of opera. And come in and I'm going to... I know I already did some drying out, but I'm going to have to go back and re-dry it out. So we're going to do a little bit of opera. And... hit my tones. I want some of this stuff to be nice and bright. Again, cobalt blue and opera together. And they add a little bit more blue, cobalt blue. Blend that together. You add a little bit of alizarin crimson and cobalt blue. Get a little bit grayer, a little bit more intense, colors. Here you go, something like this. In terms of this, and we're going to end up bringing some of this down. A little bit more intense. We're changing this up. Now all this stuff here that I'm putting in here is just background. All right, so I just wanted to make sure that you understand that. It's just not... None of the stuff that we're doing here is definitive. That is to say, it's just background colors, background hues. We're dealing with snow, so it's important that we understand that with snow generally tends to be a little bit on the soft side. I just want this stuff to just carry through. Okay, so now that we've done that, and we're going to let that sort of go where it wants, I want to take a little bit more of my alizarin crimson and a little bit stronger blue. So I'm going right now, and I'm going to be bringing in my French ultramarine blue combination with my alizarin crimson. See the difference? Okay, right there. And we're going to start to put in some deeper, darker values somewhere in here. A little bit more alizarin crimson. And some of these areas I'm going to come up a little bit on the short side. That is to say, I want some harder edges in here. So we'll do something like that, and we're going to actually come down because we have a wonderful tree here, and I'm going to put some of that up here. And my tree is a little bit on the bent over side, you know, sort of leaning into the picture. I'll put another one over there. All right, and I'm going to end up coming over here, and we're going to start to do some lighter values, warmer values. So my warmer values are going to end up being brighter colors, obviously. So we're going to get some oranges. Cadmium orange, cadmium yellow, along with a little bit of yellow ochre. The first thing I want to do when I do this is we have an overall feel, so let's just get some of this nice stuff in here, and we'll leave some light areas here and there for sun to come through. And down here, a little bit cool yellows will go to our and I'm going to add some red to this. What I did is I just used some cadmium red, or actually in my case I used some pyro red as I came in here. And we're going to gray some of this down a little bit more. Okay. Okay. So that's what's going to happen up there, and all of this is going to dry out. Actually, you know what I have to do here? Let's just do this right now. Let's take a little sort of a hard edge in here. Let's start to lighten some of this stuff up a bit. We may have to. Well, I may have waited a little bit too long. And this is probably too soon. Oh, maybe not. Need some lights in here. We have some lights coming through the trees and stuff like that. Since this is snow. Just taking some of my bright combination, my pyro red, add a little bit of burnt sienna to it, and bring some of that into my tree area here. We'll define this in a bit, a little bit more. Trees. We have trees that are going on here. Let's take a little bit of my combination that I just made and add a little bit of take a little bit of blue. We'll just add a little bit of cerulean blue to it. Get a little bit of more interesting change of. I'm going to change the colors up here. All right, so we have a trunk here. And maybe a trunk in this area here, and probably we're going to have some over here as well. Tree trunks, we'll just fix these as tree trunks later, okay? And put some of this, also some of this tonal value up in this area here, because we have some, we obviously have some changes that are taking place. Maybe a little darker up in this area. It's all wet. We'll end up doing some strong stuff here. We'll maybe put something in here. So let's wet this. See if we can get some lighter areas in there. So, as I said to you before, I don't mask. But sometimes I need to get some brighter spots. Let me see if that water eats at that. It may still be a little bit too wet to do that with, but I'm looking for spots that I can play around with that are a little bit lighter between the leaves of the trees. Blue-gray. What I'm doing is I'm mixing up some darker, heavier pigment in a combination of cerulean blue, cobalt blue, I'm sorry, and my opera. All right, so I want to start to get some darker areas in this in the tree trunks here. See if we can make that work. Now again, remember this is all wet. And we're practicing. This is how do we create the same effect? How do I create the same effect, I guess, without masking? Because that's what I'm really sort of doing here. And I'm using the composition of the individual that I'm working on, roughly. Not, it's working with, I should say, his paintings. And again, I don't want to tell you his name. That's not the important part here. The important thing is, can we create the same effect? So we're going to go down here. I'm going to mix this a little bit heavier. I need some darker pigment down here because we have this tree that is basically what happens is that it's fallen and it can't get up. That's one of those things that are coming across the little creek here, and just sort of makes for more of an interesting painting. Well, this will all get sort of worked out. So. I don't know. Let's see. Yellow ochre. These trees need to be yellow ochre, more yellow ochre. Why they're bent over, who knows? A little bit redder. Remember, we're dealing with, this is a loose painting. The biggest problem I may have right now is that I'm getting some more lights in here. I don't actually like this. I think what I'm going to do is bring this one down here a little bit more. Don't like it so much going off. All right. Okay, so now that we have that, let's start to put in let's see if we can do this now. Let's start to see if I can lift out some whites. My snow-covered branch. And we're going to do the same thing with this one up here. Get some light in here, see if we can get some of this. Some of that out of there. Remember, this is snow. If you remember, generally speaking, now this is just generalizations, but you should be able to lift out. Most of these colors are not staining colors, so we should be able to go back in here with water and lift out where the snow is covering the tops of these. Okay, snow on that. We have some snow there. Some snow here. Just creating some snow, guys. That's all it is. The softness of the snow. As I said, I'm not a big fan of masking. Actually, if I have to go through the process of masking, I might as well use white paint, which I may do to enhance this a bit more. We'll see. It doesn't. I'm not sure I will. I'm just saying that I may. And yes, opaque. You know, white paint tends to be a little bit more opaque, and it's perfectly acceptable for watercolor. All right, so let's go back and put in something that's a little bit, oh, let's see. Let's get this a little darker, a little bit more pigment. Actually, we're going to end up combination burnt sienna, French ultramarine blue. Okay. Now, I'm going to do the same thing with this stuff over here. This big tree here. Still a bit too wet. We'll fix it. Still a little bit too wet. Hey, so let's get some of that bright color now back in here. Okay, so let's start to look at what's happening between the trees and some nice nice bright colors. Even brighter. We'll do some even brighter colors than that. Okay, let's just, okay, so now that we've got this basic base and it's, you know, see it's nice and fuzzy and all that kind of loosey stuff, we're going to start to put some strong accents in this and start to develop the painting a little bit more. So let's take our brush. Couple of brushes here we'll use. Wet them up and we're going to start to do some accents. We're going to start, I know we want to get some semblance of a leafy structure. Some semblance of a leafy structure that's got some strong value to it. So let's move on. Okay, we'll fix this in here because that's a little bit too on the light side as well. Okay, so let's start with re-accenting some of this over here, all right? And it's a slow process, actually, what happens here now. Because we're still building this up. As an example, let's say we have a tree that we have a tree right here. All right, and I'm going to try to keep, I don't want to put my head in here, so I'm going to try to do this by standing on the side. But I may have to cover my painting every once in a while with my hand, so forgive me. But we're going to now start to do a little bit more of an accent in terms of the trees that are here. Okay. And as we come down, we want to make a little bit of maybe some change in this. We'll change the value up a little bit. More of a this nice orange red that we have over here, and we'll make it a little bit lighter down here. All right, and we have that going on up there. And what I would do probably here is to do a little bit more of that. Just bring another piece out there. Oh, sorry. All right, so tree number 1 is there, and maybe we want to put in some foliage. And we're just moving, these are light values that I'm putting in here. Watery values. A little darker than what's there. Okay, now maybe see if we can get a little darker value in here, and maybe in here where this tree branch goes out there. Perhaps maybe even right here where we have a nice dark coming down here. And we'll make this a little bit, oh, we got one over here as well, so let's do that. We have a tree trunk in here. And what we're doing is we're changing up the hue of the tree. I mean, I'm coming down with cool colors, and I'm going to move into a little bit warmer colors as I come down the trunk. All right, and we're going to add some, again, warmer tones in here. And let's do this. Let's just come down here and get some of this change up over here, and we're just going to end up, let's just move this down into this area here and spot it. Alright, and we'll just, this is just a constant mixture of values, and not only values, but colors that are cool and warm. Just cooling this off a hair. And again, what I'm doing is I'm sort of, I have my reference in front of me. Please understand. I mean, we're not doing this in a vacuum, and I'm really doing this more like I would do it. But I'm using his technique, I suppose. Again, his technique is a technique of masking and then lifting. I don't have that ability. Not that I don't have the ability, but I don't have that the feeling that I should be doing something like that. I don't like. As I said, I'm not usually a person that would mask. But I will take different values to try to create the same kind of illusion without the process of masking. So we have this sort of interesting kind of tree that's in here, and we've got some leafy structure that goes on. We're going to bring a little bit more life and vibrance to the area over here by adding some warmer tones to this now. This is warmer tones. Those warmer tones are made up of my cadmium yellow and pyro red. In your case, it may be cadmium red. I'm not sure, whatever you've got, whatever red is, make it. But it's a sort of a red-orange. It's not really a red. Because we're dealing with rust. We're dealing with fall and winter foliage here that's just about to fall off the trees. Let's do this tree a little bit more, put a little bit more clarity, I suppose, to the tree over here. So we'll make this a little bit browner here. Add a little bit red brown as we come down here and over to this way over here. Am I head in the way? I hope not. You have all these sort of different and we have, when we meet this, we get dark over here, a little bit more of a darker presence here. I'm going to make that more interesting. Okay, so that's nice and light, and we're going to end up probably putting in a little bit of grass. And again, what I'm really doing is just going from warmer colors to cooler colors, trying to create a series of, or a variety of lights and darks, warms and cools, moving from one color to another. But working off of the composition that I'm looking at, obviously. Because I do have a guide, whether that guide is this particular painting by this individual, or I'm working off of a photograph that I've taken. But in this case, we're just working, like I said, we have a plan in mind, and the plan is to try to emulate as best we can the painting in front of us, without, again, going back to saying this, without directly copying it. These trees, by the way, are not the exact same trees that are in line that he's doing. You know, I just sort of arbitrarily did what I thought was a better look or feel or whatever, you know. But again, using his stuff as a guide, which we all do. I mean, I've talked to a lot of my students, and we have a wonderful variety of goods, of works that are on the market right now, you know, between YouTube and Venmo and some of the other great video channels that are on the market. You know, you can go up there and you can see these. You can say, just, you know, wow, what wonderful work these guys are doing. How do I do my piece so that I could emulate those? I got a nice, and how much do I do? You know, one of the things is that if we do this kind of stuff, so, you know, what you're going to do is you're going to sort of get a feel, or you're going to learn from the people that you're working from, the work that you're working from, is how this individual handles emulating, or what he's using as reference. All right, so all of that being done, if I want this to stand out as a tree, I need to get a little bit darker behind here. All right, so you can see what I'm doing. So that pushes this out a little bit. That gives me the, with the dark behind, with the negative painting here. I got a nice light area here coming down on this side of the tree, which could be snow, it could be anything actually. All right. Okay, so that gives me a tree trunk over here. That's thin it out a little bit more. Nice tree trunk that's over there. We'll just pick up some of this stuff and bring this in here. Now, let's do the same thing here. And here. Okay. Let's put a little sapling in here. Maybe one here too. We have this, I already put this in. So we'll just make this trunk over here a little bit darker on this side. Okay, so again, in order to make us aware that this is the trunk of a tree, we need something that's on this side that's a little bit darker, so it stands out a little bit more. That negative painting kind of stuff, right? So in order for this to pop out, you have to put something dark behind it. And if I'm going to do something that's really nice and strong here, let's get this nice and dark up here. I don't want to go get my pigment really too. I want it dark, but I don't want necessarily it to be there you go. To be what? I lost my thought when I... sorry about that. I do that often, I guess, once, you know, as I'm coming down here and I'm sort of working this stuff out, I have these sort of nutty thoughts of what I'm dealing with and how I want to explain this, and then I sort of lose my thoughts. But I guess that's my license. I have the ability to, you know, we have to forgive us sometimes when we're doing this. I don't know if you're aware of it, but it can be very interesting to when you're doing these educational videos, because a lot of us just paint roadly. We just sort of, in our minds, we know what we're doing, and it becomes sort of difficult to explain. But what I'm doing is I'm trying to create some texture in this tree trunk as I come down. This may be a little bit of problematic coming down here. I don't know. We'll see. I may end up. Well, we'll see what happens. I may end up having to play around with this a little bit more. All right. I want this to look realistic as well. So, you know, when you're building the trees, when you're building anything, you need to have an understanding of the tree's dimension, depth. They get fatter at the bottom. A little dark behind here. All right. All right, so I'm sort of got some foliage in here. Let's get some red. These are cool areas. These branches are coming down. Some of them are lost. Okay, maybe we'll put one here too. Little saplings that are back here. All right. Same way with here, we have this sort of nice dark shadowed area. It's important. I think it's basically right now. It's just sort of important to leave this alone. I mean, I just. I want to do that. I want to just make it nice and. This is in the snowbank over here. I got this actually too close to this, so maybe it's, we'll see, something that broke off. All right, we have. I don't want to get too nutty with this thing, so just. Okay, so if I do that, I need to do something over here. That's fine, that's okay, this is good. Hard values. Maybe soften up an edge. No, I don't know. Let's see. We soften up one of the edges. All right. Let me see if I can get a little bit of tonal value in here. No, I think I'll just do one. That nice and light. Okay. This little people. All small, crappy things. What are we dealing with here? I don't know how much more we need. I don't think we need much more. We have this sort of thing going over here, pointing to this guy. And maybe a little. little sort of shadow right there. Okay. I don't know, pretty decent to me right now. Let's see. There's always generally something sticking out of the snow. Okie doke, and one more thing. See if we can get this a little bit more interesting here. This is the final. Get a feeling of bark on that tree that's fallen. Okay. Let's get some shadow. Okay. It's interesting because no matter how much I start to play around with some of the other, some of the stuff I see, this is pretty much my stuff anyway. It's just my way of handling it. I always revert back to that. It's just my own thumbprint, I guess. Just want to see if I can, I don't know if I can do this. But I'll try. Okay, that's, oh, wait a minute, before I say okay, that's that, let me just, I might end up having to put some white in here. I wanted to take, I have some colors here now that are staining, a little bit staining, not too much, but we'll see. Soften these up a bit. Okay. So there's my piece. Thank you for being with me. I hope we got something out of this. Got some nice snow in here. It's softer. Got a couple of dudes back here walking in the woods. My Canada geese over here, or goose, I should say. So thanks. And until next time, I'm your host, Tony Visco. Thank you for being with me.